What if Bronny, Bryce, and LeBron James run their hometown Cleveland Cavaliers? But instead of present day, they went into a time machine back to 2014, a time where LeBron made a promise.
I'ma do what makes my city happy, I promise.
And LeBron would have to fulfill this championship promise with his two sons, meaning that LeGM would get to work sending Kyrie Irving to a flat earth convention and Kevin Love off to become a GQ model. And with the king in prime form, he would have to develop Bryce and Bronny. So let's see if they'll turn into stars by the end of this video, as they have until the 2025 season to fulfill LeBron's promise. And so beginning in the 2015 season, Bryce and Bronny would need to start developing pretty quickly. And who better to be developed by than their dad, LeBron James, as Bryce would be going from a 75 overall to a 77 overall, and Bronny would get a little better too, going up to a 76 overall. But still at this point, these two guys are bums, so LeBron would have to be carrying the Cavs, putting up a pretty ridiculous stat line per usual and leading Cleveland to a 55-win season. And this 55-win season would be enough to get the James family to a 1 seed, where they would play Charlotte in the first round, which the Hornets blow. With the James family easily claiming game 1, that would be the last easy game they would have, as the Hornets, even with trash-ass Cody Zeller, would come to play, and this series would be a back-and-forth fight, even though the Cavs were a 1 seed and the Hornets were an 8 seed. Eventually, things would somehow come down to a game 7, and the Cavs would just squeak this series out. Moving on to round 2 to face the Miami Heat, the team LeBron just left. And it doesn't take a palm reader to know that Dwayne Wade would be looking to get some revenge. But getting tipped off in Cleveland, it looks like the James family was really starting to click, as they would use home court to their advantage and they would take game 1. But need I remind you that last series against an 8 seed went 7 games. Bryce and Bronny just didn't have enough playoff experience at this point, so Dwayne Wade would be shoving it down their throats in games 2, 3, 4, and 5. Cavs would be sent packing in 5, and they were really missing the veteran leadership of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. But Bryce and Bronny are just getting started. Let's move on to the 2016 season, where both Bryce and Bronny would be taking massive leads. Bronny was starting to look like an elite perimeter defender as well as rim finisher, and Bryce's size and increasing strength were only getting better. With some intense work in the offseason as well as the regular season, Bryce would be making a massive jump up to an 81 overall, and Bronny would be doing the exact same thing, also going up to an 81 overall. And let's not forget, most importantly of all, Daddy LeBron, who would be averaging 30 points and almost a triple-double, which of course would be enough for an MVP award, making it his 5th at this point in his career. But it wasn't enough to get the Cavs to a high seed. They would only be 5th in the East, and this was partially because other dominant teams were emerging in the league, but also Bryce and Bronny's overalls were getting better, but they really weren't contributing much to the team. And in round 1, the lack of playoff experience would once again show for Bryce and Bronny, as veteran John Wall would annihilate the rim, and the Wizards would be sending the Cleveland Cavaliers home in 5. And it's understandable if you're bummed out by these guys' lack of success right now, but they're just in their 2nd season. They only have to win 1 championship to fulfill LeBron's promise to Cleveland. But in order to get even better, LeBron would be having to take some drastic action, ripping both of his sons' PlayStation 5s from their room and rigging them with explosives, ensuring that this season there wouldn't be any distractions. So now, let's see if this psychotic move by LeBron would take the Cavaliers to the next level in the 2017 season. And before we talk about the Cavs, let me remind you that the Warriors acquired a certain somebody in the offseason, so things aren't gonna get much easier for the James family. But the move by King James to nuke his son's PlayStation seemed to be working. Cleveland would be breaking into the 60-win territory, finishing as a 2 seed in the East, which was a drastic improvement from last year, as Bryce would be moving up to an 83 overall and Bronny would now be an 84. And to no surprise, LeBron would be racking up his 6th MVP in his career, averaging a historic 35 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists. So right now, it's clear the Cavaliers are hot. This could be the turning point where Bryce and Bronny become 2 valuable role players. But only time will tell, as the James family would be facing New York in round 1. They're back to 2 seed. Carmelo and the Knicks in round 1. They're kind of washed. And no disrespect at all to Carmelo Anthony, he's just 32 years old. Meaning that LeBron would be having a field day with this matchup, and Bryce and Bronny also looked like they had been here before, as Cleveland would be sending New York home in 5 games. Then in round 2, the Cavs would be facing the Chicago Bulls, where King James would destroy Jimmy Butler and smack around tall-ass Taj Gibson. Meaning that, yes, they're going to the conference finals. Toronto Raptors, LeBronto, and we'll just have to see if LeBronto still exists in this alternate reality. Because if the James family can get past the Raptors, they can make it to the NBA Finals, and they can wrap this thing up pretty quickly. But because the Raptors were the 1 seed, we'd be getting started in Toronto. Drake would be sitting courtside to witness the Toronto Raptors take games 1 and 2. But don't hang your head and start crying just yet. We'd be taking this back to Cleveland, playing in Ohio, the home state of Bryce, Bronny, and LeBron. So our trio was obviously very comfortable, and as game 3 got underway, maybe they were too comfortable, as the dynamic duo of Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan would be taking this one in dominant fashion, going up 3-0. And although the Cavs would take games 4 and 5, you can't really come back down 3-0. The Raptors would be winning game 6 in Cleveland, and our trio would be walking off the court hanging their heads in defeat. And with no all-star help on the way whatsoever, LeBron's either going to have to entirely carry this team, or he's going to have to get both of his sons to all-star status. And with 8 seasons left, that's plenty of time for either the James brothers to get a lot better, or for this little experiment to collapse entirely. So make up your mind if you think they'll be able to get it done as we move into the 2018 season. And as I alluded to a second ago, it would look like LeBron is starting to backpack this team with yet another amazing stat line. But LeBron James Jr.'s terrific work in the offseason after getting over video game withdrawals would prove to be beneficial in this 2018 season, as he would be moving up to an 85 overall, and Bryce would be getting a little better too, going up to an 86 overall, which would mean that LeBron's 2 sons are actually better than the average NBA player at this point in time. And this trio as a collective would have a dominant season, finishing as a 1st seed with a 66-win record. They were clearly on a mission to at least get back to the conference finals, if not deliver on LeBron's promise here and now. And I know the thing that I've harped on this entire video is the fact that LeBron having his 2 sons is a disadvantage compared to having Kyrie and Kevin Love. But let me throw in a key bit of information. At this point in time, Kyrie Irving would have left and gone to the Boston Celtics, leaving LeBron with just 1 supporting cast member, but in this alternate reality, he now has 2 who are young and up and coming. And might I add that Bronny made all defensive 1st team in this season. So this Cavs team is absolutely set up to take down the villain of the league, Kevin Durant. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. For now, they're gonna face the sorry-ass Brooklyn Nets in round 1, who would get effortlessly obliterated in a sweep. Then moving on to round 2 to face Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers. There'd be a little bit more resistance in this matchup, but not much. It would go 6 games, and that would be it. Cleveland would be moving on back to the conference finals, with a chance to get revenge against the Toronto Raptors, except this time the Cavs had home court advantage. And starting in Cleveland was a massive advantage, except big-ass Kyle Lowry would come out the gate swinging, and somehow the Raptors would be taking that advantage back. But never fear, the lockdown defense of both Bryce and Bronny, as well as the facilitation by LeBron, would get game 2 for the Cavaliers. So yes, they're still without home court advantage, but going into Toronto, the Raptors were down a little bit of energy. Drake wasn't courtside because he was in the US facing a grand jury of 12. Guilty!
Cups of the rose,
And with Drake locked up in the slammer, LeBron would be reviving LeBronto and taking game 3, going up 2-1. But Toronto would respond and we'd be tied up 2 apiece just for the James family to go right back home and take a 3-2 lead. And in an elimination game 6, heading right back to Canada, the James trio was clicking on all cylinders. Down the stretch, it was clear we were about to see our first NBA Finals. The James family is going to the NBA Finals for the first time in this video. They have the potential to end it right now. You do have to face Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Little bit concerning, not gonna lie. And if you've been conscious for the last 7 years, you've probably heard all about this ridiculous Warriors team. 2 of the 3 years they were together, they won the NBA Finals. So now this would be the ultimate test for Bryce and Bronny. We're about to find out if they can hold their own against probably the best NBA team of all time and potentially reaching this video's goal by fulfilling LeBron's promise and bringing a championship to Cleveland. And in this series, luckily, we would be starting in Cleveland. Off the bat, Bronny wasn't only looking like an elite defender, but he was looking like one of the best defenders in the NBA. He was giving Steph Curry work, as well as Bryce using his elite wingspan to block shots and get to the rim. And of course, the GOAT himself would also put on a show. The James trio wouldn't only be stunning the Warriors in the first game, but they would be also taking the second, going up 2-0. And with all momentum on their side and the potential to go up 3-0 on the greatest NBA team ever created, the elite skill set of the Slim Reaper, as well as the insane shooting of Steph Curry, was just too much with that Oakland crowd. As the Dubs wouldn't only be claiming game 3, but also game 4, tying us up at 2 apiece. But returning home, as LeBron, Bryce, and Bronny had done in this video often, they would be taking a 3-2 lead, and as they were on the doorstep of the championship, Kevin Durant would tie things up. We would be going to a game 7, where this trio had the opportunity to come out on top right here, or they could take a loss. They might not get this opportunity again for years. So diving into game 7, we were in Cleveland. This would be the fairy tale ending for 3 guys to bring a championship home to their home city. And what started off as a dogfight with 2 elite basketball players would go down the stretch in the 4th quarter, but slowly the Warriors would pull away and they'd have a double-digit lead with less than a minute remaining. Kevin Durant and the Warriors are getting it done. And with the Dubs upsetting the Cavs on their home floor, the James brothers specifically were crushed. They had never won a championship before, and they were only a few points away from one. But this disappointment fed the fire in the offseason before the 2019 season. With no video games whatsoever, all Bryce and Bronny could do was play basketball. And it absolutely showed, as Bronny not only would be moving up to an 87 overall, but he also would be selected to his first All-Star team. And as for Bryce, his overall wouldn't really go up at all. Just like Bronny, he's kind of reaching the prime of his career, so the jumps between each season aren't going to be that great. But still, his jump shot had come a long way, and he was creating a lot of space for this Cavs team. And LeBron was both proud of his boys and confident in them. So confident that the Cavs went 65-17. And it's really worth mentioning that in real life, at this point in time, LeBron left the Eastern Conference and went to LA in the Western Conference. But now he's staying in Cleveland, meaning that Toronto, who was really good this year and won the championship in real life, kind of fell off. They didn't have DeMar DeRozan, and Kawhi wasn't really working in this reality, as they were now a 7 seed, and the Cavs would send them off with a gentleman's sweep, followed by round 2 against the Knicks, which would just straight up be a sweep, onto the Eastern Conference Finals against the 76ers, who now had acquired Jimmy Butler. So off rip, this series was clearly going to be one trio versus another, with the 76ers starting at home, and honestly, it wasn't really looking good for the Cavs. Jimmy Butler off rip was a very seasoned veteran, as well as being bigger than both Bryce and Bronny. He was just a matchup nightmare, and not to mention Ben Simmons, who is 6'10", playing point guard. Philly would be taking the first 2 games at home, but returning to Cleveland, the James family would respond, primarily because LeBron would just go off, and after taking a game back, that would be the last sign of success best for the Cavs in this series because, let's be real, there aren't enough steroids on the face of the earth for Tristan Thompson to stop Joel Embiid. The Sixers wouldn't only be taking a 3-1 lead in Cleveland, but they would be going back home, closing it out with the gentleman's sweep, meaning yet another exciting season would have a disappointing result. But don't hang your heads just yet, as we would have 6 seasons remaining at this point, and in the 2020 season, the boys would be getting a little better, both going up to an 88 overall, and the Cavs as a whole would finish as a 1 seed. And while the James brothers absolutely contributed to the success, it was mostly LeBron who would put up some pretty crazy numbers. Winning his 7th career MVP, you could almost taste the championship, especially now that this team had some really valuable role players off the bench. They now had all the elements a team needs to win a championship, starting off in round 1 where they would smoke the Orlando Magic. Then in round 2, the Indiana Pacers would come out of nowhere and sweep this Cavaliers team, which really made no sense. They got swept. That's so dumb. It seemed like the Pacers' big man depth of Domantas Sabonis and Miles Turner was the sole reason they got beat so bad in this series. And I've stressed it a few times before how you don't have to worry, there's a ton of time left, but now there's 5 seasons remaining. LeBron is starting to regress just a little bit, and Bryce and Bronny aren't getting any better. In order for this trio to become legendary, they're gonna have to act soon. But in the 2021 season, the Cavaliers would bolster their roster, adding some much-needed size in Jarrett Allen and Isaiah Hartenstein. Bryce, Bronny, and LeBron knew that they really had to start improving soon. And this team would go 59-23 to finish as the 1st seed in the East, but they were a 1 and a 2 seed the last 2 seasons, and it didn't really matter. So we'll just have to see if this season is any different. Starting off in round 1 against the Miami Heat, who were the 8th seed, and it seemed like they were the 8th seed as the Cavs would get it done in 5 games. Then moving on to round 2, we would have a rematch from last year against the Indiana Pacers, putting to the test if the Cavs' newly acquired size would make a difference. And it very much did, as Cleveland would be sending the Pacers home in 6 games, heading back to the Eastern Conference Finals to face the New York Knicks. And the Knicks were the 2 seed and a very solid team, but the Cavs now had so many big bodies that Julius Randle would struggle to take over games, as well as their roster having no matchup for LeBron whatsoever. Cleveland would be winning in 6, finally making their return to the NBA Finals, facing the Golden State Warriors, who now did not have Kevin Durant, who left for the Brooklyn Nets. We got a Warriors-Cavaliers Finals matchup in 2021. This could be it. It's not the Kevin Durant Warriors. They got a chance. So this was looking very possible for the James trio. They had an opportunity to become probably the most legendary 3 individuals in Cleveland history. And so their second NBA Finals would get underway in Cleveland. Bronny would show how far his shooting game has come, as well as his lockdown defense on Steph Curry, as well as Bryce James giving Klay Thompson a bunch of problems, and LeBron bodying Draymond Green. The Cavaliers would win games 1 and 2 in Cleveland, and going to San Francisco, you'd be mistaken if you didn't think Steph Curry and the Warriors would respond in both games 3 and 4. We were tied at 2 games each, and it was clear that home court advantage would be a massive factor in this series, especially going into Cleveland for game 5, where LeBron would just absolutely take over, and the Cavs would have now a 3-2 lead, meaning they were just 1 win away from claiming their championship. They can fulfill the promise right here, right now. And I mentioned that home court advantage would play a massive role in this series, and that was absolutely right. The Cavs would have to dig deep to get a win in Golden State. Bronny, Bryce, and LeBron were clicking on all cylinders. It was a close game, as Steph Curry also would be lighting it up from 3-point range. And with just 50 seconds remaining, the Cavaliers would be down 1, where they would have to lock up on defense in order to try and win this series. Steph Curry torched them a second to go. Hopefully Bronny can clamp up. Bronny, please lock him. We've been locking him in the video. They don't foul him. Let's relax. It's not good to do that. Klay Thompson to Curry. Curry driving on Bronny. Block that shit. What are you doing? How were y'all letting him get that board? Yo! How does that even happen? Andrew Wiggins, 34 for some reason, and he hits that. All right, bro. It's a three-point game. And so now the Cavs, as well as the James trio, would have one final opportunity with about 18 seconds left to tie this thing and send it to overtime. Colin Sexton has it into Bryce. Bryce, order on him. Bryce. That's it, man. And after an absolute dumbass shot by Bryce James, we'd be forced to go to a game 7 just like before. And it's not now or never, but like I mentioned, these opportunities are not going to be easy to come by, especially with LeBron getting older and his two sons plateauing as far as skill goes. So game 7 would get underway. Wigan Loans Arena would be erupting, and Steph Curry and LeBron would go punch for punch, as well as Bryce and Bronny showing up with a few highlights as well. We have a scrappy physical NBA Finals Game 7 on our hands that would come down the wire, where the Cavaliers would lead by 4 with about a minute remaining. 4-point game, minute 15 remaining. It's the Cavs to lose. LeBron drives. The Venus! 6-point game. Let's see what Steph does, though. Steph is kind of cooking Bronny. Okay, 4-point game. Not out of the woods yet. LeBron has Wiggins on him. Pick from Jared Allen. Oh, my. Why'd you shoot that? Why did you shoot that? Steph Curry has Bronny on him once again. Not really sure what this is. Okay, that's a wide open shot. All right, this is a ball game still. Get across the line, man. All right, LeBron in isolation with Wiggins. Wiggins can't guard you, LeBron. It's a foul. LeBron does miss free throws from time to time. It's the first 3-point game. Okay, all right. Little rim on that one, but that's okay. 4-point game. Plays some defense. Draymond inbounding it to Klay Thompson. Steph Curry's working off the ball or just right inside at Bronny. All right, foul him. I love shooting free throws. I love shooting free throws. Steph Curry buying. Now we're back to a 2-point game. A little concerning here. Colin Sexton gets fouled, and because there were about 1 trillion free throws shot at the end of this game, I'm gonna save you some time. Basically, we'd go free throw for free throw until it was a 3-point Cavaliers lead, where the Warriors had the ball with less than 5 seconds remaining. 3-point game. The Warriors can send it to overtime. 4, 3, 2, 1. Wiggins! Oh my God! They've done it! And after Andrew Wiggins barely missed the game-tying shot, our James trio would be claiming a championship, successfully fulfilling LeBron's promise as one of the greatest trios ever. But what if we took LaMelo, LiAngelo, and Lonzo Ball, and instead of playing for Chino Hills, we actually put them in the NBA on the Los Angeles Lakers? Could they become the greatest trio of all time? Click on the center of the screen to find out.